Welcome to the Homeworkers Network. This is episode 7, and this is the show that is all about creating an engaged homeworkers community that shares best practice and leadership so that together we can grow and develop both ourselves and our businesses. Now, I'm joined by Julian Jenkins. Hello, Julian.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for joining.
Absolutely. Now, it's been a busy week for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, very busy week. I'm about to launch, we just redesigned my personal site. We're about to launch my sports business site. And I've been the last 3 days in Geneva with Genève Servette Hockey Club with Hugh, who's in the room, looking at fan engagement, fan experience, and all things good over there as well. So it's been a very busy period.
Yeah, it's busy for me as well. Always is leading up till Christmas with various Christmas launch events and that type of thing. And I know our two other co-hosts are exceptionally busy both too. Now, today we're going to be talking about virtual assistants. Now, last week's show, we spent some time talking about networking and the value people got from networking, and the virtual assistant subject we did touch upon it in last week's show. So we decided that's what the show would be about this week. I actually have a bit of a confession to make, because I sent a last-minute Slack message to Julian literally about 5 minutes before we went on air to say, hang on a minute, what do we actually mean by virtual assistant? Because I thought it was just the type that, pick up the phones for you when you're out the office and that type of thing. But actually, it covers a whole raft of things, doesn't it, Julian?
Yeah, it does. And, it's an area that I think is going to grow. And from my perspective, I've been using it because I've got two main aspects to my world or my business.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I've got myself, which is my own personal brand, julianjenkins.me, which is on the screen, and my other company, which I'm the co-founder and CEO of, a company called Fanalyze, which is to do with sports business. And the julianjenkins.me side of things I've been doing it as a bit of a social experiment in terms of looking at how the internet works, looking at how best to use things, at doing it at the right price, looking at technology for us to be able to be smarter and really sort of analyze the data, et cetera, and also looking at the virtual assistant world and to see, where the opportunities are, because, Hugh and I were having quite a long conversation yesterday morning over breakfast, and what we're looking at really, or what I'm looking at the moment for julianjenkins.me is if you're in the room and you're the most intelligent person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Okay. I always want. Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna go then.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the point. Here's the point I'm going to make. I think you are in the right room. If you're the most least knowledgeable in the room, then you're in the right room. And what you're trying to do really is a couple of things. One is you're trying to, to encourage your knowledge and your experience and your ability and your information, everything you take on board. And secondly, you really want to be trying to surround yourself with people who are better than you. Okay, so that's the key thing. So, we've all got our own skills, we've all got our own, abilities and pros and cons. And what it's about really is trying to put together, when you start to understand your business, putting together a team that can really help your business that in the areas where you're not very good at, okay, or with the areas that really take too much time and your time is better off spent somewhere else. So it is about delegation and it's about building a team. So when I started looking at the julianjenkins.me site, then I was looking at how I could put together a team for the business and products that I was doing, which is basically around consultancy, basically around online courses, and around a book that I've produced, an ebook that I've produced and put out so far. So I wanted to build a team that could help me facilitate that. Not only I wrote the book, but I wanted somebody to proofread it. I wanted somebody to proofread my blog. I wanted somebody to design my blog. I wanted somebody to design my website. I wanted somebody to look at my online marketing. I wanted somebody to look at my list building. I wanted somebody to be able to look at my my email campaign. I wanted somebody to come in and all different people to be able to put together a team that I can rely on and work with that was cost effective, of a certain quality and a certain standard, that would allow me then to focus, if you like, working on the business and not in the business. So that's where I started with this sort of social experiment in terms of julianjenkins.me. And in the main, I've been surprised at the success of not just the quality of the people, but the commitment and everybody else. And in some ways now, the website that I've been using, as I said, as a bit of a social experiment, I've actually taken 2 or 3 people from my site and actually integrated them into my core business now, which is my sports business site and the stuff we're doing with Fanalyze. Because not only are they of a very high standard, their commitment levels are incredible, okay? And the trust that we've managed to build over the last 2 to 3 months is amazing. And I've already been invited to go to a wedding of one of the guys that I'm working with, who started off on JulianJenkins.me and now is working on my Fanalyze set. And I know all of his family. We Skype, we talk, and we get on really, really well. And you know, it's building that sort of level and that team and everything around you that allows you to do that. So I think it's a huge growth area. There are many pitfalls that we could talk about, but I think on the upside, it is something that if you're a home working network and you're a bit of an entrepreneur, and you know you're a one-man band and you've got to play the trombone and kick the drum and you know everything else to go with it, there's opportunities to get some other people to play the mouth organ and other people to bang the drums. So you know that's what we're looking at.
Right. I mean, I've had an idea on how because I was saying to you off air earlier that I do everything myself. I don't really outsource anything and you said, oh, well, you know, after you listen to this, you might. And already I'm thinking of something that I might want to outsource. And if there's anyone in the audience, I'll put that out to people later on and see if there's anyone who can help me with that. Now, Marcus, welcome. And Phil, welcome to the show. I know you guys, we knew you were going to be a bit late because you're both really busy fellas. Marcus, we'll start with you. What's your experience with virtual assistants, if any?
Mostly it's been wishful thinking on my part.
We're not on about those sort of virtual assistants, my Marcus. they're technically called something else.
Well, for me, it's been a really interesting question, actually, because I had, obviously, when you're employed, as I am, clearly you don't tend to think of outsourcing your work. Unless you've kind of read something like the 4-Hour Work Week, and you've gone all sort of.
You need a secretary, by the way.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that.
By the way, everybody, can you switch your phones off, please?
Just that. The only problem with me is being tech boy. My Mac starts ringing as well, so that might be a problem. But yeah, I mean, so unless you've kind of read the Tim Ferriss, 4-Hour Work Week, which I do recommend to anybody who hasn't read it, and I'm sure you probably all have. It really does give that glimpse into being able to kind of take yourself, as you were saying, I think, Julian, rather than working sort of in your business, you know, you're working on your business. And I think that's the same for anybody, whatever industry you're in. So personally, I did have a spell where I was putting together a vast amount of information for other people. And that was quite a frustration for me because it felt like I didn't have the kind of bandwidth, if you like, to concentrate on the things that I really felt I should be concentrating on. And at that moment, I thought, you know what an awesome idea it would be if I just reached out and got somebody to do this. So my experience of this has been, and maybe even the same for some of the other people out there in the audience, has been just kind of looking into it. It was, first of all, what the hell is a virtual assistant? What can they do for you? How much do they cost? What types of hourly rates do they have? And then on top of that, it was, can you rely on what it is that you are asking them to do for you? So it was an interesting journey. And I think for my part, the plus side of that is that I made a large number of contacts on LinkedIn through having done this. And also I created a list that exists within Twitter, which is equally interesting in this area because, like for this show, the opportunity to reach out to some of those people directly and say, hey, you know, we're running this show, you know, give you 50 pence worth is really cool because at the end of the day, these people, it's their business to help people who actually need their help, as opposed to, you know, they don't have to tout for business per se. They really are in the business of helping people to get stuff done that they don't want to do. So I think it's a really interesting subject.
Okay. Now we're joined by Martin at Sunday Social. Hello there, Martin. How are you doing?
How are you guys? You okay? You can hear me?
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Martin, whereabouts are you based?
Warwick in the Midlands, yeah.
Cool. And you put a comment in the comments there to say that you pretty much outsource everything in this way, don't you?
Yeah.
Can you talk us through your experience and maybe tell us a little bit about your business? If you can try and keep it brief, though.
Yeah, sure. I've run a website, an SEO company, and also social media business as well. I've been promoting and producing websites now since 2007, off and on, using the WordPress platform mainly.
Yeah. Right.
Because it's easy. And also I found with that particular platform, there are quite a lot of contractors that I've used via elance.com and also, which is now Upwork. But there are many different freelancing sites that you can use. I found the main reason why I started using contractors was mainly because they have the technical skills and competency that I didn't have the time to learn how to use WordPress, and they also would know, for example, the little foibles and the little things that, you know, if you were building apps and how to integrate stuff, and they can do that on the fly. Whereas you'd have to perhaps go and read up about it, so they could advise you on what was going to be the best protocols and the best apps for that particular situation as you put them together.
Right.
On the SEO stuff as well, again, it's very much as Marcus has said, you know, it's finding that time to do this. And I focus on my best attributes, which is the account management and getting my clients and making sure that I can meet their deadlines. So you know, it just basically allows me to focus on getting the best satisfaction for my clients, and then also, you know, relaying that to any guy that I'm working with, saying, look, I need this done. And it also helps that if I need to tweak anything, it's very simple to get that. So if I can communicate that across to my contractors, then it's great. Okay. Now, that said, there are, you know, it's taken a while for me to assemble my team, you know, and like Marcus said, he's got a list of people that he goes to if he needs to for a particular job, for example, because he knows that person, he can give them that that job, and they will come back and give them quality work, and normally at a price that is reasonable.
I was going to ask you, Martin, have you had any bad experiences?
Yes, I have.
Can you share as briefly as you can, just share maybe some of those with us and what the learning curve was as far as that was concerned?
A learning curve for me was mainly trust. I became slightly trusting with a couple of contractors, or have been slightly trusting with a couple of contractors, because from the initial work that, you know, I will always ask for example, for them to produce to me a little portfolio or a CV of their past work and stuff, so that I can evaluate how good they are, and I will always evaluate them against people that I'm using. Sometimes you'll find the contractor might lift someone else's work and propose it as their own, so you can't necessarily always trust that the work that they're proposing that is theirs is theirs. I found this out on 2 occasions. The guy that I was working with didn't quite have the necessary skill sets that I needed at that time. To be honest with you, I put it down as one of those things, you know, and it just meant that my evaluation process, I needed to sharpen it and to ask more questions and be more searching. And I would recommend that with anybody. You know, it's no different from, say, for example, if you are conducting a job interview and someone hands you their CV, you've got to ask the right questions. You need to know what your main focus is, what your aim is, to what you're trying to accomplish, and whether that person has the skill sets in order for you to get there. And I do that all the time.
And have you had any situations where you've been unhappy with the work that they've produced? And if that's the case, where do you take it? I mean, does it not get awkward?
Well, a lot of the time when you're using sites like Upwork, for example, you will pay the contractor. There will be a set, let's say, for example, at the beginning, there's agreed parameters. So there's a date for them to finish it by. There are the list of parameters that you want them to work towards, and on top of that, also there's a price. So you can pay them monthly. So you can either pay them hourly, or you can pay a fixed price. So say, for example, I needed you to wash my car and or valet my car, and you said, right, the car is going to cost £50 to be valeted. So you'd expect the interior to be done. You'd expect, the windows to be washed, everything, the whole package for that. Now, if at the end of it you find that there are marks as you inspect the car, and there's marks along the side, for example, you have that time then to recourse and say, hey, you've missed a bit, or this is not right, before you pay that money over. And using a contractor is exactly the same. Until you're actually happy with the body of work, you do not have to pay them. It could well be that you decide that what they've proposed isn't worth what you've said that it is, so then you can come to a little bit of compromise. But generally, as long as you tell them what they have to fix, they have to go away and fix it before you pay.
Right. Fantastic. Well, thank you. That's a really interesting insight. And I find it fascinating that you outsource everything.
Yeah.
And that's how you run your business.
Yeah.
I find that
it
really
so much of my time, and it just means that I can spend time working with my clients, and also it means that I can be a little bit more responsive as well on the fly, because if I have one person, say for example, working on a job and I need 2 people to do that particular job because of time constraints, I can draft somebody in quite quickly at a moment's notice, and at a good price as well.
Right, and I suppose with modern technology, like the technology we're using right now or similar, you can meet with those suppliers through a peer-in or one of the other similar types of, and meet in the cloud too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I interview all of my contractors via Skype.
Right.
So I have it's always nice. Before, I never used to do that. A lot of it was done via Messenger and stuff like that, but I found it was easier for me to actually look them in the eyeballs and see, and it does also help break the ice, because if you're going to do long-term projects with these guys, that nice familiarity, because a lot of the time the contractors won't necessarily be in the UK, because it just happens that a lot of contractors tend to be abroad. So because of time constraints in terms of the different hours and stuff like that, I'm doing Skype calls maybe early morning or late at night or whatever, but at least we have that contact, and at least the contractor knows that they can contact me as well.
Right, wonderful. Well, listen, Martin, thanks so much for taking part in this. It's been a fascinating insight, and your appearance here is quite timely, really. So thank you very much. Really do appreciate it. And if you have anything else you want to contribute later on in the show, make sure you put them in the comments, and maybe we might get you back in a bit later on. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Really
thank you, Martin. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're joined by, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to pronounce this correctly, so forgive me, Indishaw Productions. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, that's exactly right. Thank you.
Whereabouts are you in the UK?
In Nottingham.
In Nottingham, all right. Marcus is in Nottingham too, and I have a brother who lives in Nottingham, so I'm there quite a lot. Yeah, fantastic. Maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you're at the other end of the scale now. So, do you get work in this way?
Basically, what I do, I'm a freelance video editor.
Right.
So I kind of have 2 main ways of trying to raise business. So either I make promo videos for small businesses, although the way I go about it is I just do it from an editing perspective. So I do it I aim at small businesses who maybe kind of use social media. So they might just already go on Facebook or something, and they have pictures, for instance, they might kind of post up. But I will literally kind of use their information they want, their pictures, and maybe even little videos they already have, and put them together in a video for a cheap price. Because if you look for a promo video from typical promo video production companies, they charge you hundreds of pounds a minute, and they'd go to where you are and they'd film it for you and make it all Hollywood. But I think there's a gap in the market for the very small businesses who have only got about £50 to spend.
That's what Dici does, I think.
It is, yeah. Go, carry on.
Like a little video.
We've lost him. Oh, what a shame. We got him back. Hello. Yeah, no, actually, you our businesses are very similar. But carry on. Go on. Tell us more.
Yeah. So basically, the way it is at the minute, I do some editing for other companies in which they just need editing doing. Is actually in the mystery shopping sector, funnily enough, right. Which is a totally different kind of side of things, just to edit for them. But yeah, as I was saying, that small businesses, they don't have huge budgets, of course. So they might want a little video to put on Facebook or Twitter, but they don't have hundreds of pounds to spend. So the way I've kind of got in there is they might, I don't know, say like a little cake company on Facebook, they put, oh, here's my cakes. You know, they send me the pictures and I'll just hook them into a video, add some royalty-free music and all the information we need. And then they've got a video to put on. So I'm kind of aiming at the very, very small businesses. Right.
And I think that there may be a real, so this is outsourcing really. So the businesses are outsourcing the editing to you. It's very clever, I think, actually. And I think you and I need to connect after this to stick around, because I think I might be able to give you some work.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Well,
because I've so many clients now that I'm trying to fulfill that actually I'm struggling. So if I could put some video files up in Dropbox or Google Drive and say to you, here, fella, edit that together for me. We don't even, you can be in Nottingham, I can be here. It doesn't really matter, does it?
Well, exactly. I mean, that is the main reason for my business model, because originally I thought, you know, do the traditional thing, literally go out filming, but it takes so much time.
Oh, doesn't it just?
Whereas now I can literally work from home, deal with anybody in the UK mainland, because I'm not at the size of business yet to be VAT registered. And there's the new, I'm sure you already know, there's the new rules to do with basically electronic communication. If you're in that kind of line of work, you need to be VAT registered, and there's a whole new kind of tax side of it.
Right. So, well, you don't need to be VAT registered, but there is data protection issues, and yeah, no,
so I've kind of stuck with just UK mainland,
right?
Because I just thought, well, there's plenty enough people in the UK.
Absolutely. So. Well, listen, Indershot, thank you very much for your contribution. Really do appreciate it. And would you stick around and make sure you follow me on Twitter and connect with me in case we do get disconnected? Because I think you and I should talk. There's a lot of synergy between what you and I do, and I think that there may be some business opportunities there. So I really do appreciate that.
No, that'd be fantastic. I'm very, very new to this.
Well, if you click on my profile, in fact, I'll just put it in the comments there. At Paul Deitch, connect with me on my Twitter there. All right.
Can we just take your name? Can we just take your name, because obviously it's coming up as in the show.
Yeah, it's Carlo, Carlo.
Hello, Carlo. Welcome to the show. Nice to see you.
Thank you. And make sure you like our Facebook page at Home Workers Network.
Correct.
Oh, definitely.
And we'll get you on again. I'm sure there'll be opportunities to have you on and talk about what you do on the show in the future. So thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. Pleasure. Very, very kind.
Okay.
Thank you.
Stick around. Okay.
Will do.
Well, that's really interesting. Really interesting.
And that is networking 101, people. So jump
Isn't it?
So
Isn't it just
never know. You just never know, right? And this is the beauty.
Amazing.
So far,
I'm hoping Deitch is going to give me some work.
So far,
I reckon I could actually.
It answers two big questions for me. I mean, you guys know my interest in this was based on a lot of the things that have already been said. So I'm really pleased to have that interaction. So again, if any of you guys out there in the audience want to jump in, just put a 1 in the comments there, and one of us guys will just jump out and give you that opportunity.
Now, uncharacteristically, we've not heard from Phil yet. As he goes to take a slurp of the Manchester gin there.
Yeah.
The nice cup of Rosie Lee. What's your experience with virtual assistants, Phil? And do you outsource?
I think that I've been involved in outsourcing. Yes, I do outsource, and I've been doing it probably for the 10 years or so I've been doing this. And it's a fantastic way of getting extra resources when you need it. I mean, we just witnessed it there actually with you, Paul, because it's that whole thing of you can't do everything yourself. If you want to grow, it's impossible. There's only so many hours in a day. So to be able to outsource stuff to other people allows you to grow but without having to start employing people and all, frankly, the nightmares that creates, including HR law and getting let down left, right, and centre, and paternity leave and maternity leave, and I think we've only just seen it's very new, but I think it will become massively mainstream, and I think it's the best kept secret. So I've done it for websites. I've done it, and in fact, actually, I'm going to start doing it I'm going to do some telemarketing. So I'm going to go on some of these sites to put out a proposal for some, or request for proposal for some telemarketing for exactly the same reason. And at the same time, I'm also used and abused as somebody who provides an outsourced service as well. And I think I might have mentioned it on here before, but one of the things I've noticed, the big growing area in my business, is I've started to offer what in effect is like a virtual digital marketing director service. And that's exactly that. So somebody doesn't want to employ somebody's already got a marketing director, but is not probably in tune with the modern world. And there's quite a few companies with those around, can buy you in and pay as you go. And I also think it's great because business is never nice and neat and tidy, is it? It's always comes and ebbs and flows. So the idea of not carrying cost in your business, say over Christmas, when everybody's either half cut or half asleep or can't be bothered, or all three, I just think is a very efficient way of doing business. And in fact, I think probably the only real reason there's not more of it is probably a lot of corporates struggle with the idea, particularly corporate management, of not being in control of it. I've got them sat there, I can see what they're doing.
I think it's changing mindset as well, Phil.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
if you take, we've mentioned in previous shows how I'm doing more and more of my meetings either via Skype or similar, appearing FaceTime, whatever, with my clients. And at first, when I suggested it to them, this happened today actually with one of my clients. When I suggested it to them, they were like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm not sure about that." And I said, "Well, come on then, let's give it a try." And when they tried it, they thought, "Flipping heck, this is it blew their mind." We had a meeting on Appear In, and I think that this is what's happening now. I've never outsourced anything, and right then, live on the show, we've met a guy who does very similar, as Julian said, very similar to what I do. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, he could take a lot of my work away from me.
Imagine
that would free me up.
Exactly. Imagine how much time that will save you to think about the things you should or want to be doing. I mean, that's the whole beauty of this.
And again, from my perspective, and I want this to sound the right way, but I'm absolutely no good whatsoever at DIY or gardening. Okay,
me neither.
I hate it. All right. Now I like to go.
I thought you were quite good at DIY. Actually, I'd heard a rumor. Sorry, Julian. Carry on.
Well, I'll tell you a very true story. I actually featured, and my house featured on DIY SOS with Nick Knowles and the team. So it'll show you how bad my DIY was. I had a brand new kitchen from the BBC.
I'm looking that up.
Thank you very much, because you all pay your TV license fee. You all paid for my kitchen, which I sold the house at a huge profit on. But anyway, moving swiftly on. I don't like gardening, but I've got a guy at Garno who's an old caretaker. He's a fantastic bloke. He's happy to come and do my gardening one day a month. Now I could go and do it, but that day would be taken out of my core business and my core principles that I do. So I outsource something that I'm not very good at, and also takes up a lot of my time. So it's the same principle, and I don't know how deep we're going to go into this, but there are a number of pros and cons, and there are a number of pitfalls and obviously, successes. But what you've got to ensure you do is you've got to go into this with your eyes wide open. Okay, it's not a panacea of beauty. It's something that can be something very different. So there is a number of things that we need to do on it. And I think Martin touched across some of it. People say to me, which is the best site to use, and that's difficult to say because it's not the site, it's the people within it. Okay, so what you must remember, you're not hiring Upwork, or you're not hiring freelancer, or you're not hiring people per hour to come and do what you're doing. You're hiring the people within it. Okay, what I found for the things that I'm looking for, which was design, web, SEO, email, and all the rest of it. I found that Upwork, which was formerly Odesk, has the better caliber of people within it to outsource to. Okay, so I use Freelancer, which was okay, but to be honest with you, you've got to skim through and filter. One of the big things you need to make sure that you do is that you, as I think Martin was saying as well, is that I do a lot of my interviewing and things like that on Skype. So straight away, I'll move them off the platform of Upwork. I'll get them to come in. And if generally, my rule of thumb, if within the first 3 to 5 minutes of the conversation, they talk about money, I don't go any further. Okay, I don't go any further because it is, yes, of course, it's about money. But what I'm more interested in, and on the first conversation that we're having, is them to get a deeper understanding of who I am and what I do. The money will come later. If somebody does a really good job for me, they'll get paid well, right? So that's immaterial. Money, as I always say, is a byproduct of what we do. It's not the main focus. But so I always do that, and also then what I try and do is get them, if they will. And again, this was what filtered me further. I get them to do some form of sample or draft, or not test, because these are, these are educated people. But I'll say to them, well, do me a favor then. Have a look at my site and come back to me with 5 or 6 tips on you need to do. Here's my site. I need something designed for this blog. Go and design me something. And when they come back, then I'll say yes or no. And generally, I do that after a few phases. So I'm not just asking everybody to send me a design, because then not everyone's going to get the job. You can, if you want, set up a contest. Okay. So for instance, my logo, which is the Julian Jenkins logo, which is on the right-hand side, was actually done through Freelancer. Okay. That was the site there. And I set up a contest. So I said, I will pay somebody $100 if they come up with a logo that I like. And then I put out there who I was, what I wanted to do, etc., my corporate colors, my fonts, and all the rest of it.
This is the one at the bottom of the screen?
Yeah, this is the one at the bottom of the screen that says Julian Jenkins, which is probably just here somewhere. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So they then come back, and I had a contest. I had about 30 people do all different designs for me. Then I chose the winner. And the winner got the money. So again, with those sort of things, now you've got to be careful, because there's 2 types of contests. There's a normal contest and there's a guaranteed contest, which means you have to choose a winner. And if you don't choose a winner, the money gets equally spread amongst those people who are on it.
Okay.
So there is, look, again, I don't want people to watch this and say everything's brilliant, run to the hills, then come back to the next show and say, you bunch of idiots. I've wasted 7 days doing this, and I've had so much, horse manure. It's not worked out. So I want people to be in the full light of what this is.
Now, let me ask you, Julian. So when you go, I'm not familiar with these websites that you've just mentioned.
Yeah.
So when you go on there, can you connect with people in a live way, actually on the site, and then take it through to Skype? How does that work?
Well, basically what they'll do is you'll post your job, and then people will come on and say, I'm interested in this job. Then you can message them. Okay, so they come through with a formal proposal. You've got all that information, all their details. You've got past work. There's like a rating as well. So they'll say this person completed 97% of their jobs. He's got an average of 4 out of 5 stars. Blah 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 blah. Okay, then you can go and say, right, and you can message them and say, I'm interested in talking to you. You then talk to them, and I say to them, look, let's take this offline. Let's go over to Skype so I can get to see them and see their work and where they are and what they do and everything else that goes along with that. That's then I take it to Skype. Then I will do it. And it's interesting that Patricia says that some may be too good for that approach. Yeah, maybe they are, but those people then don't work for me. So it's entirely up to them. Fear of loss is never a problem for me. So I can't worry about the people who aren't working for me. I've got too much to worry about the buggers who are. So it's that type of thing. So there is a great opportunity here, but again, do it with your eyes wide open.
Right. Fascinating.
There's a certain inevitability, though, isn't there, that you can be careful and due diligence. Easy for me to say, but having said that, you will have to. I've kissed a few frogs on the way.
No, and I've had one recently. I had one recently who was going to do some email stuff for me, and he promised me the world. And then when he had some of the stuff that I wanted, turned around and said, "Well, yeah, this is taking me longer than I thought. I'm going to have to charge you more." I said, well, it's taking you longer and cost you more than you thought. Goodbye.
Now, somebody's made a very good comment. Purple Select has said, get references, please. And I think that whether you work in this way or whether you do it the traditional way, it's always a good idea, isn't it, Phil?
Yes, absolutely. But then, on the other hand, we all know we've all bought stuff that didn't live up to our expectations and services. People can bullshit very well and so on and so forth. I think the critical factor, which has been mentioned, but really, and I did this at the start, made the mistake, is just never hand over any money until it's fully signed, sealed, and delivered. You've signed it off. You're happy with the quality. It's not going to test it again and again. I went, because sometimes I charge quite often half up front, so I thought that was maybe normal. But that was a mistake I made at the start, and they got half the money, and then I spent another 3 months trying to get what I expected and wanted, right. And that was a big mistake from my point of view.
But what about at the other end of the scale, Julian, as the supplier themselves, the person you're outsourcing to? What if you don't pay them? Is there any way they can
But again,
make things difficult for you?
It's like anything, isn't it? The world's built on trust, isn't it? And what I tend to do is I tend to set certain milestones within the project. So I never pay per hour because, my experience is it may take slightly longer. So I always pay per project. And what I'll do is I'll milestone it. So once we've gone through the process, and I will, before I ask anybody to provide a draft or do anything for me, I've probably filtered it by about 4 or 5 layers. So to be honest with you, the only person really that I'm going to ask a draft for, or who's going to do something for me, is pretty much then in a queue of one.
Right.
But I just want that final. I want that final confirmation. Then I'll milestone it. So if they're going to do, so I just had a guy now who's just finished off doing my website and some data capture stuff on it. So I've said to him, look, I'll pay you this to start with. Then halfway through, as long as I'm happy with the design and everything else, I'll pay you this. Then the final payment will be at the end, once we've agreed that everything we've decided to do, that we agreed to do, is in place. And you know what? If we get through those 3 phases and you've gone over and above, I will give you a bonus. Now the bonus will be discretionary and it'll be up to me exactly how much it is, but that's the way it is. And I've done exactly that with a guy who's a really good coder, who's done a lot of coding for the stuff that I'm doing. He came up with a price at the end. I've done the 3 phases, and I've said to him, Sampath, here's some more money because you've been outstanding. Now, that's the sort of relationship that I have and I build with these people, that it is built on trust. And, it's a two-way thing. And it is, so if you get it right, it is a bit like the elves and the shoemaker, because these people are at different time zones to you. You leave all the leather out on the worktop, and you come down, and then
that's a good analogy.
Very
good.
Attractive.
And all the shoes are made.
How many do you use, Julian?
5 I've got now. I've got a team of 5. Nice. But that 5 is probably, that 5 again showing you, that 5 has probably been 15. So I've constantly whittled the 15 down to the 5. Yeah. And you know what? They haven't been bad, but what I'm looking for when I'm working with these people are people who get it, understand me and the product. Obviously I can trust them. Obviously that they put the work in. And their standard and quality of what they deliver is high, and that's and to be fair to Upwork, I've had probably Upwork, I've probably had 2 people who I didn't follow through with, for one reason or another, but in the main, they've been outstanding. And in fact, the designer girl is just phenomenal.
I'll have to speak to you about that.
Yeah, I think once you find the I think it's absolutely true. You go through the process, and eventually you almost like go through a filter process, don't you, finding the best. And once you've found the best and you've got most of your areas covered, then you continue using them through Skype as a supplier. I've got one guy I'm still doing work with 5 years on in Russia, actually. And
Sunday Social Martin has just said in the comments, once you establish your team, then the trust is there anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's right with that. And that's the same in the real world. You have your trusted suppliers. And Laura B. Williams has said,
it's a great quote.
Yeah, I never charge for work in advance. And in over 5 years, I have not had a client pay, not once. Why? Because I do a good job, good work.
Exactly.
I meet my deadlines, and there's a lot to be said for that, because you know, good, reliable people are hard to come by. And if you're in business for the right reasons and you're doing things the way you should be doing, then you're going to buy. I mean, I'm old school. Me, when I get an invoice in, I pay it there and then, because I like to know the money that's in my bank account is mine. You know, and also you build up a good relationship with your suppliers if you pay them on time.
But I think the thing is as well is that when you do when you go on things like Upwork, and I know Patricia sort of saying that my approach wouldn't suit the work that she does, but I've got a lad now who's doing a lot of my email stuff. He'd never had a job on Upwork before. Okay, so I'm not, I could have easily just filtered him out and said no. Okay. But the way he approached me, the way he talked to me, the way he went onto my site and said, do you realize you're making these mistakes? Do you realize this is wrong? Do you realize that's wrong? I can help you here. Look, just let me have an hour with you, And this kid was so, he was only 21 years of age. He's just come out of college. He's so enthused. I've turned around to him now and said, look, I'll pay you for what I am going to pay you, but I'll cut you in now on a profit share. And actually, if what you do sells more of this, I'll give you 10% of whatever I sell. I have no problem with that whatsoever, and that's more money than this kid's ever going to think about earning. I just said to him, I said, you do the job, you do it properly. You can have 10% of everything that I sell. And this kid now, I've had to tell him to go to bed. It's getting like that now. But he's a really good kid, and it was only because if I would have filtered him and chucked him out, that he wouldn't have had that chance, and he really is a top lad, and I love working with him. So there's a lot of things to do within it.
Let me just ask you very quickly, what's in it for Upwork or Odesk? I mean, how do they make their money?
They charge you a fee.
Percentage.
Yeah. They charge you a fee, and they charge. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the other things, though, perhaps worth mentioning, which I don't think we've covered, is it's also the onus is on us to give a clear and concise and accurate brief.
Yeah.
Because I've been guilty of that before. Now I've been really busy in the past, and it wasn't. If I was honest about it, it wasn't really their fault. They did kind of what I'd asked, but sometimes when we're busy, we cut corners. So there's an onus on both parties to act with professionalism and accuracy.
And you know what, Phil? It's a very good point, and it's the one thing that I've learned most of all is that a lot of the people you're going to be working with will not be from your local vicinity. So, for instance, my designer's in Ukraine. Okay, my IT guy is in Sri Lanka. The kid I was talking about is in Bangladesh. Okay, so these people are all over the place. So not only is there, my accent is different, and the way I talk and the way I pronounce things is different, but also their culture, their understanding, their how they see things is very different as well. So you have to spend some time to ensure what you're explaining to them, they understand. Okay. Now that does take a bit more time, but in the long run, it'll save you a lot of time. So you have to be, I think Phil's 100% right. In terms of the brief, you have to be bang on, but also in the follow-up in terms of the information you're giving them. So for instance, when I had my first designer turn around and say, I wanted my blog to look like this, I then went and found 3 or 4 comparables of what I wanted it to look like, and gave her those comparables and said, I want it to look something like this, but to represent me within my colors. And then she went away and come back with something that was absolutely on the tee. Otherwise, we could have spent a lot of time going around in circles and actually maybe not getting anywhere. It's not her lack of ability. It's my lack of information that I'm imparting in her, coupled with culture, language, and philosophies that other people have different.
It's just so subjective, isn't it? That's the thing as well. What's right for one person. I always like for clients to say to me, I like that site, and that site, or I want something like that. I want one of those. Yeah, because that's always a bit easier as well, because then you can refer that your outsourced supplier to something that's specific and tangible, rather than relying on their imagination, which is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Laura B. Williams has said, I use Fiverr all the time. It's a great help.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that because, of course, Fiverr rolls off the tongue. A lot of people know Fiverr. It's pretty well used out there, particularly by bloggers and things like that. You hear people talking about it. And I wondered if anybody had any comments about the quality of the work that you get there, because I've heard a bit of a throwaway type,
Again, I
that was what you're talking about, Julian. There's a lot less.
Yeah, I think, do you know what? I think like-minded people group together. And I think that you'll probably find that different ones will have different skill sets within them, and some of the sites will have stronger skill sets than others. We used Fiverr actually for some content stuff. It came back really, really well. We tried to use them for web design and the rest of it. It didn't really work. And conversely, I've tried to do some email listing stuff on Upwork that worked on Fiverr, but it's not working on Upwork. So again, it's not just the site; it's obviously the people within that, and it is about finding those and just take your time. Don't rush in. Don't rush in. Take your time and get it done.
It's also about thinking about what their drivers are, if you like, and their drivers on Fiverr really are to allow you to taste the cheese.
Yeah.
So if they do a really good job, I've used it for logos and it's been really superb. And at the same time, a lot of the smarter ones, they understand that if they do a really great job, they can become your preferred supplier for years. So the longer tail of the business opportunity for them could be hundreds and hundreds of dollars if they do it well. So I guess it's only a similar thing to, as a consultant, I sometimes will go and give somebody a free half an hour of my time just to kind of get the relationship going and show what I'm about and such like. And it's probably just the same scenario, but for that area.
Now we're going to move on. I lost you all then for a second. Sorry about that.
We lost you.
You lost me, right? Okay, do beg your pardon. Let's just read this comment. I think that one of the problems is that clients can have trouble communicating what they want, particularly in design. I mean, that's something I come up with all the time in my line of work. When people say, "Well, I want this," I'm not sure what I want. I've seen this. And it's about managing expectations, isn't it?
Yeah, they know what they don't want, but they don't know what they do want. I think the problem is you then do the work and, you find, and like you say, I think the biggest thing, and again, I love the fact that I can talk to this from both points of view. It is absolutely about managing expectations. I mean, I have the pleasure of working with people across a large number of countries, and I can't tell you how many times I've been in a conference call that's had 20 people from different countries on it. And then I guess the feedback later on is, I may speak very good English, etc., and I may believe that I'm being understood. But when you hear silence on a call, that does not mean you're being understood, right? It just means maybe people don't know what you're talking about and they're too frightened to speak up and say. So I guess when you're paying for it, the difference is you've got to make sure that people know exactly what it is that you want. And I guess that takes you closer to your end goal.
Cool. Okay. I think that what I'd like to do now, because we're getting close to time here,
just zips by, doesn't it?
It really does. I could talk about this all day long, and I've really had my eyes opened, actually. There's two things here that I think I didn't think I had need for virtual assistants, and now I'm thinking of lots of different ways that I might be able to use them. But
did I not tell you that?
You did, Julian. You did say that. So thank you. Now, I want to move on to top tech tips now. My favourite segment of the show, actually. I can't wait to hear what Marcus has got to come up with, and my wallet is poised.
All right. Well, you'll be pleased to know this week's top tech tip for you all. Those of you who have stayed, this is an exciting one, I think, and it won't cost you anything. At least it isn't going to cost you anything yet.
That's the first.
We talked about this briefly, and I think I may have alluded to this. I wanted to give it a crack before I talked about it with anybody else, because one of the things I pride myself on is I really don't talk about stuff unless I know about it. This week, it is the app called Co, as it, and I'll just show you the little emblem there. You may see Co.
Yep. It's
right next to a different one. Now, it's actually officially titled, I believe it's something like, where is it? coeverywhere.com, and I will paste into the comments section the website if you want to go there. What does it do? Bottom line, it really kind of makes social media a little more exciting. You have an area here. This is the area that I'm in right now. And what I can do is I can just hit upon this button, and it will basically tell me everything that's happening, socially speaking, in my area within a radius at this moment in time. And it literally scrolls through Instagram posts or Twitter. You can actually segregate here and say, that's giving me all media. I don't know if you can see that very well.
Yeah.
But right here, I can then click on just this one, I think, and that gives me just tweets, which is really cool, right? But here's where it gets, I think, extra level stuff. So you can click on this area down here. You get like 6 of these, but I've been playing with opening up some different groups. So if I open up this area here, I can then go and put in, somebody give me it doesn't really matter. Let's say Surrey, for example. Oops. Excuse me, guys. There we go. So that's South Surrey, Vancouver. We don't really want that, but it doesn't matter. So we click on an area, okay, geographically speaking, and then we can get really cool because we can say, actually, I've kind of screwed that up. Let's not worry about that. What we can do is we can click on here. We can click on the pen icon right at the bottom. And this is just a really cool idea. You can draw a geographical... Did that work?
Geofence. Yeah.
You put a geofence around the area that you're thinking about, and it then says, okay, great. Is that where you want? And you say, yep, that's for me. You can go ahead and name the area if you want to keep coming back to it in the future.
That's cool.
Within that geofence, it will then give me all of the social nuggets that are happening across a particular sector. And I think that's a really, really clever thing to be able to do. If you go to a conference or anything like that, I mean, it's priceless for you to be able to...
Phil Crowshaw's just said he loves that. And actually, I love it too, because I think that if you're particularly a small business in a certain area, to be able to know what people are talking about in your area is gold dust. Yeah. It really is. So I think that's a brilliant app. Phil, you got your top tech tip for the week?
Yeah, you see, you have me following Marcus, the genius, don't you? I mean,
he is hard to follow. He is hard to follow when it comes to...
I mean, you could have left it... anyway, no.
I'll do that next week. I'll leave Marcus till last.
My basic, poor, dreadful top tech tip this week, after Marcus's genius. Branded Me is what I'm going to talk about very quickly. Branded Me is branded.me. And it's basically a site that allows you to build very quickly a website for you personally. So it's free of charge. As always, there's all sorts of things you can do which to upgrade, but it's drag and drop and it's just very simple to use. So for somebody like, say for example, somebody like Marcus, for example, who's employed, but wants to not really spend any money but wants still a presence online as Marcus Boswell, the genius, the next Steve Jobs, that kind of thing. Then that's a site that you can use. And I've recommended it to a couple of people, charities that I know that are trying to promote at the moment. Didn't really want to spend any money. It was something they're doing on the side. And it's just really easy, simple, drag and drop, write the text in, click stuff that anybody can use. And it's called branded.me to build a brand for yourself.
I'm going to check that out because I think there's a few local charities and community groups who I think might really benefit from that, actually, because some of them have appalling web presences.
Yeah, and because it's all structured and all already set up, you can't really cock it up in the design because the boxes are all a bit like WordPress. All the boxes are already there in the place.
Right. Does it have to have branded.me as the part of your domain name then?
Yeah, I think mine, and I've not actually done it fully yet, but I think mine is phil-crowshaw.branded.me. But I think that's one of those upgrade jobs.
Like WordPress. Like WordPress.com, isn't it? So you could have philcrowshaw.wordpress.com, but if you're prepared to pay a few quid, you could, and it's cheap with WordPress. It's like £9 a year for domain mapping.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Well, it's less for these guys. It's $7 a month.
Yeah.
So,
I've got my own Phil Crowshaw site, but that cost me, even through my guys in Russia, that still cost me $400 or $500 or whatever.
Right.
So and it pretty much does everything that does.
Brilliant. Thanks, Phil. That's a great top tech tip.
No
top tech tip for this week.
Hey,
got you. Nice one, Julian. Over to you, my man.
Well, I'm going to be pretty boring and traditional today, but I find that because I travel quite a bit, there's two things that I use really. The first one, I don't know whether you've seen it, and you've probably seen it, unfortunately, on the news for the wrong things, is Flight Radar 24. Now, it's probably not going to. Yeah. It's not going to calm down here, but basically what it is it allows you to track any airplane in the world, okay, to see exactly where it is. Now, why is that important to me? It's important to me because you can go to the airport where you are, and then you can click it and you can see the arrivals and the departures. So when your flight is delayed and it just says delayed, you can track where the plane's coming from, and realize that it's not going to land for another hour and a half. Now, they don't tell you that in the airport, but if you're sat in a lounge or you're doing something, you know you don't have to rush because it's all on there. Plus, if you're picking up people from the airport, which unfortunately I do quite a bit, that you can see where the people's planes are and everything else. So it's a really good tool that I use when I'm traveling or when I'm picking people up from traveling.
And that's called what again?
Flight Radar 24. It's the one you always see on the news, unfortunately, if a plane crashes.
Yeah, it's a really good app. I use just to give some alternatives to those. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going overseas on business tomorrow. And the two apps that I'll be using, one is called Flightboard, which is a brilliant app. So if you imagine the boards at the arrivals and departure lounge that tells you what's going on, well, you can have that on your phone for any airport in the world. Cool. What I found incredibly is that is updated before the actual boards at the airport. So more often than not, the information you're getting there is a good 5 or 6 minutes ahead of what the airport boards are. So that's Flightboard, and by the same makers, which does the same thing as what you said there with Flight Radar. It's called Flight Track, but the difference is you can program in your flight. It tells you everything, where it is. It tells you the gates you're going to, and again, is more often than not more up to date than the.
What's that called?
Flight Track and Flightboard. Great apps, and I'll be
Marcus
using them.
has just put the Flightboard link in there.
Yeah,
Flight Track is always important because one of the best things I ever bought was a priority pass.
Yeah.
Which cost me £230 for the year, but all the flights that I do means I can go into any business lounge in the world, and I just show my card and in I go and sit down much. And when you work it out, it costs, if you're doing a lot of travel, it costs very little, and you get Wi-Fi and you get food and drink and everything else that goes along with that. So, but finally, my last point is because I just want to go on it because there's two things I said. Second one is the good old TripAdvisor app. Okay.
Oh, right.
I was in Geneva on Monday night, I think it was, and we were meant to be going somewhere, and my wife forgot to. There's a lovely spa there. We went to go in for the spa, and she forgot to bring a bathers, and this is like 7:30 in the night, so we're not going to get any bathers anyway. So I said, well, why don't we go for something to eat? And you just go on there and you say, right, what's nearby? I want the top-rated restaurant. I banged the button, and up it came, and it was within like 500 yards of me. I would never have gone in there for a month of Sundays because I didn't look great. But we went in on the recommendation, sat down. I had one of the nicest Japanese ramens that I've ever had, and I've been to Japan and had them there as well. So, it was absolutely outstanding. That was because I just went on TripAdvisor. What's around me? Where's the restaurant? And I was there within 5 minutes, sat down and had a fantastic meal. And it was just unbelievable.
I do like to leave a TripAdvisor review whenever
I do like TripAdvisor, don't get me wrong, but there's on the other side of the coin, what I don't like about TripAdvisor is it's too easy for competitors of businesses to leave negative reviews. And if you're somebody who uses TripAdvisor regularly, you can see through that. But if you're new to TripAdvisor, I think that it's a bit like eBay's rating system.
Yeah.
They do have the right to reply, though. I mean, it's not like
and they do nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah, if the business isn't vigilant, then to me that's on them for not going in there and actually responding. Exactly. Often people do respond.
And pardon the pun, I always try and get the flavour of all the comments before I go to the restaurant.
Fair enough.
Since you're travelling and since you're into travelling, TripIt. You guys familiar with that?
Yeah, that's another good one.
Yeah, really good one. Anyway, enough said.
Okay, my top tech tip of the week is I'm going to be boring as well, Julian.
Good man.
I've said before many times that I hate email, and that email is broken. People tend to sort of send emails to you that don't really need an email. Would work much better on WhatsApp, Slack, a text message, something that just needs a yes or no reply. So the app that I'm going to mention today is Inbox by Gmail.
Fantastic app. Well done.
Inbox by Gmail. And I've been using this app for a long, long time.
Yeah, me too.
In fact, I was on their beta thing. And I've got to say that the feature that I love about Inbox is that you can snooze emails. So you get an email that comes in. How many times have you overlooked an email because it's come in, you're busy doing something at the time, and then it just gets pushed down? With Inbox, if one of your clients emails you you can just slide it to the left and snooze it to come back into your inbox later on in the day. And that way you don't overlook them. But the latest feature that they've just brought out is it actually gives you, using the incredible Google algorithms, an actual reply. And it gives you 3 suggestions of the reply, and they're very accurate. So you literally just tap it and hit reply, and it actually auto completes the reply for you. What's everyone laughing at?
Well, I just think Marcus was going nuts over setting, and he thought of the wrong thing.
Well, I messed up.
I think I might have been gushing about the wrong. You said in-mail, right? And I'm thinking about mailbox, which is different, but same.
Inbox.
Yeah.
Mailbox by Dropbox works in a similar sort of way, and that's another good one.
Well, I'm also thinking how I can use the auto response to have conversations with my wife, which would be a lot easier as well. But I doubt Google will get them right.
Yeah.
Auto respond, yes. 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 Yes.
Excellent. Guys, we've come to the end of our show. It's bang on 3:00. We've done an hour. It's been a great show, virtual assistants. I've learned an incredible amount from today. I hope our audience has too. And we'll stick around for the after show if anybody wants to jump in the seats and say hi, or if you have any other questions. But it's been a pleasure. And hopefully next week we're going to go back to our normal scheduled time of 2 p.m. on Thursday.
12.
Beg your pardon, 12 o'clock.
Our normal scheduled time.
A normal scheduled time of 12 p.m. on Thursday. Sorry about that. So, yeah, make sure everybody check out our Facebook page at Homeworkers Network for all the latest news and all the rest of it. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week. So, guys, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.